Hi everybody, Mrs. Barnes here, coming you straight from my dining room to teach art in an unconventional way. So hang in there with me. We're going to talk a little bit about a famous artist, and then we're going to dig into the business of creating a new masterpiece. So today's lesson, we're going to be talking about the art of pointillism. And if you were in my 4th and 6th grade classes, you would have already been talking about some of the other isms of art. And so we had discussed, and for you younger folks, ism, that suffix at the end of the word, ISM, can, in artistic terms, kind of mean in the style of. So we're going to be talking about art in the style of points. So instead of just painting long brush strokes or creating sculpture or whatever, we're going to be doing a painting using points or dots of color side by side to create our picture. We're going to have some fun with that in a little while. But let's first look at the art of pointillism and the artist who is famous for originating the style of pointillism, and that is George Seurat. Let's get started. All right, here is a picture of George Seurat. Now, George was born in Paris, France in 1859. So, near around the time of our Civil War in America. And he was born into a family that kind of understood and accepted art as a way of making your livelihood. So his mother had family members that were involved in sculpting, creating beautiful statues. And so when the time came, George Seurat was trained at one of the most famous schools of art in Paris at the time, called École des Belles Arts, and that's where he learned to become an artist. Now, of course, he first started out, as all good artists do, with drawing and learning to compose a picture. And here are some examples of George Seurat's work. You'll notice one thing they all have in common. You're probably thinking of it now. What's the one thing that they all have in common? If you said they're all black and white, you'd be absolutely correct. There's something else to notice. They're all pretty soft looking. There's no real, well, there are hard edges, but still, these drawings have a softness to them. He really liked to work with charcoal, or something known as a Conte crayon, which is a little harder form of charcoal, not as dusty and dirty. And you could see that he was very interested in shading. He was a master at doing all those careful shades to create. He also liked to do figures, as you can see. Main selection here is all of people, and that would come in handy for his major work of art years later. So stay tuned for that. As he went into painting, he was pretty much imitating the style at the time. Van Gogh was on the scene, and those of you who have studied Van Gogh with me, a painting like this would be very familiar to you. Very soft, not a lot of hard edges, beautiful blends of color. Look at the people in the middle of this painting to the right. Yeah, those are people. And if we took a magnifying glass and looked up close, they would be nothing more than splotches of paint. But standing back, our minds read that that's two people taking a walk out in that field. Nice blending of colors, but let's look what happens as he moves on in his skill. Wow. Another Seurat, and you can see that instead of the long, smooth brush strokes and blending everything, he's doing less blending now. Many of you who've studied Van Gogh with me will say, wow, that looks like a Van Gogh, and it surely does. He's broken up his long strokes of paint now into little dots. You're starting to see it, and they're resting side by side. This is huge in pointillism. Now we're going to go move down the road several years and take a look at this painting by Seurat. Now you're saying to yourself, well, there are hard edges in this. Like I can see the hard edge of the tree and the figure in the foreground with the trombone, but it's still kind of a softy look. And the reason for that is this is painted all in dots. By this time, Seurat has kind of evolved in his painting with little dots of color, and this painting is all dots. You're saying, well, I can kind of see that it's fuzzy, but I can't see all those dots. Well, let's take a look at this figure over here, close up, and then you'll see. Wow, there it is. Can you see the tiny dots of color side by side that went together to create the shadows along his face? The darker part of his hair here, his skin tones, everything. Nothing more than dot by dot by dot of color. Now, how long do you think this would have taken? You have to have a lot of patience to be a pointillist artist, right? Because those dots, and you're going to find out, can take a while. So there's the close-up. So let's talk here. We know that pointillism is a style of art using only dots. We know that George Seurat from France preferred, well, he originated the whole concept of pointillism, but he preferred the name divisionism because he is actually taking a color and dividing it into parts. For instance, if he wanted to do purple, he would divide the color purple into the two colors that go into making purple. And all of my color wheel studiers out there, what two colors make purple? Red and blue. You're absolutely right. So he would divide anywhere he wanted purple to show up, he would divide into dots of red and blue side by side, all close together. And when we stand back, it looks like purple to us. See, he was very interested in what the eye did when it got back further. The eye would blend the colors in our brain, and that he didn't have to mix them. Putting them side by side would be enough. And that's how the science, the art of pointillism came about. And there you have it. Now here is a painting that he did of the Eiffel Tower in France. And you can see his pointillism style is in full force. And one of the things that I notice that the K1 class has been really working on lately in their projects is adding what to a picture where it looks kind of fuzzy or furry. Texture. I think that this painting in particular of pointillism looks really textury, and I kind of like it. You'd be surprised to know that even though you see a lot of orange in this picture, it's merely yellow and red placed closely together, maybe even overlapping in some areas, but not blended, and it gives us the color mix. Also, there's a lot of color going on in that sky, and the further you stand back from it, the more it makes sense. Your eyes will do the work, and that is what Seurat was counting on. Now, this is the most famous piece of art that George Seurat is known for, and it's called, as you see at the bottom, A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte. Now, this was an island on the Seine River, very popular in Paris, and Sunday afternoons were a day for Parisians to get dressed up and go to the park and sit and watch the boats go by, or maybe sail themselves, have a picnic lunch. The ladies walked with their umbrellas in the sunlight, and it was just a typical afternoon that George Seurat painted here. Now, remember I told you before, all that figure drawing, all those drawings of people really came in handy because he had to do lots and lots of studying and drawing of people in different poses and doing different activities, and it would all come together in this painting, all dots. That's right, all pointillism. Now here's something else you'd be interested to know. This painting is 6 foot tall and 10 foot wide. Actually, it's like 6'10", so it's probably more like 7 foot by 10 foot. When you view this painting, you almost feel like you're in the park, like you're part of the painting, and you could just step into it. So very large scale, which makes you think how hard and how long it would have taken to do something like this, only with dots. That's correct. Now, speaking of seeing this painting in person, if you wanted to, you'd have to travel to the Art Institute of Chicago because, surprise, it's here in the United States and not in France, as you would maybe guess. All right, so what if you wanted to create a piece of work in the style of pointillism? Let's talk about that. First thing I would recommend is taking a piece of scrap paper and getting out your markers and placing and experimenting dots of color side by side and then standing back and seeing what it does for you. Because you can see there's a lot of great examples here. So you might want to take your primary colors. Quick, somebody in kindergarten 1, tell me what the primary colors are. Red, that's right. What's another one? If you said yellow, you'd be right. Last one? Somebody from first grade. Blue. Excellent. Red, yellow, and blue. Try them next to each other. Remember, not covering up, side by side. See how they look. Then try secondary colors. You guys know what those are. Red and yellow make orange. Right, that is your first primary color. Yellow and blue make green, and then red and blue make purple. So try those side by side. And then you might want to try, well, I want to make a yellow green. So I'm going to do a little yellow dots and right on top, not on top, scratch that. Next to and in between, I'm going to do greens. And if I stand back, yes, my eyes have blended it. It looks like yellow green. So the first thing I want you to do is kind of experiment and kind of practice with your dots. All right, so we're going to shift gears now, and we're going to get ready because we are actually going to create a piece of art in the style of Pointillism. Are you ready? Let's do it. All right, so stay tuned.